I'm Turk Strongman at Mind Voltage, current resident. There's no visual for this video. I'm talking quietly because my wife is 6 feet away asleep. I recently explained 2 things to somebody by email. They are the 2 subject matters that, with respect to my own material here, my own uploads here on this channel, several hundred of them, these, for the first time ever, these 2 new areas that I need to incorporate into all of my existing material somehow. It must all be synthesized together. I have hit a wall. I've never been so challenged before regarding material. I did mention in my last upload here a few weeks ago that it was my final upload. I'm moving on. I gave a couple of reasons for that. I don't think I gave this one. That as far as the material goes on my channel, as it is, it's finished. I have nothing more to add about these 2 new areas that I must now synthesize into what's already here. Move forward like that. That's the continuation, but I'm kind of at a loss how to proceed. I have not even fully put into words what these 2 areas are, but I'm going to tell you what I have so far. I explained these to somebody, like I said, by email just a few days ago. So that you guys all know that I'm not going from my channel forever. For various reasons, including this one that I'm now bringing up. There's a pause. There's a hiatus. I am on to different things. But this is what's lurking in the background. Alright? This is what's coming together. Just starting to. Alright, now. Here's the first main thing. I'm reading these emails I sent. Here and there and tucked away in discrete areas on a few of the thumbnails you've recently seen on my channel. You might have noticed the words Dwapara Yuga, D-W-A-P-A-R-A, Yuga, Y-U-G-A. According to the now past seer, sage, Indian astrologer, and Janavatar, Swami Sri Yukteswarji, whose name and photo you can see on a thumbnail, to my narration of his, part of his one and only book, The Holy Science. According to him, Indian astrologers in large have it that we still toil along in the waning Kali Yuga, that being the West's equivalent to the Dark Ages, or the period of greatest human ignorance and perception of only the physical material plane. But he points out that a mathematical error has led to that conclusion, and the corrected calculation puts us cleanly in the rising Dwapara Yuga that follows the Kali Yuga, okay? In the rising Dwapara, humanity begins to perceive beyond the physical sensory world. Humanity discovers and learns to use the effects of electricity, nuclear energy, human subtle energies, prana or vril, and the like. The emphasis here is on electricity and magnetism and their inherent principle of polarity. Okay? The way of human redemption for the Kali Yuga was laid out by the Master Jesus, the real one, and in collaboration with the deathless Mahavatar Babaji, again, the real one. Now, Yukteswar, who I mentioned, was a disciple of Mahasaya, who was chief disciple of Babaji. And at one time, I was a devotee of Yukteswar's chief disciple, so somewhat comprehending Yukteswar's level of attainment. I believe that if he went to such lengths to set the record straight, as I mentioned just above, upon, in fact, Babaji's solicitation for him to do that, well, then he set it straight correctly. All right, now. So, let's just adopt that correction here and the conclusion about the Dwapara Yuga now. This now puts us in a new evolved period of human redemption potential, a period of leaps forward in the human capacity to self-manage its own method of personal redemption. Almost everything on my channel is geared towards such self-management. I'm putting all of my channel material correctly. And what we have is the what, why, and how of it. But I ended up making the logo you've seen here. The logo is circular and it's almost like neon colors. Okay. I cannot describe it. It looks like a mandala. At the upper right, on the logo, at the upper right corner of it, just outside of it, are the words Dwapara Yuga. I made that initially for what I named the Newer Thought Group. It was my attempt to ensure that the material on my channel, the entire body of thought that it entails, survives into the next human race if one should arise in place of this current Adamic one, sort of like carrying forward the torch. But then I adopted the same logo for use on this channel, on the renamed version of it, it was Franki Ramacharaka. And now it's called Mind Voltage, or Mind Voltage Institute, okay? And I adopted that logo. Dwapara Yuga, that says Dwapara Yuga. Okay, Mind Voltage. Do you get the tie-ins here? Voltage, electromagnetic polarity, and Dwapara Yuga. I even got to introducing myself in new uploads as Turk Strongman, current resident at Mind Voltage Institute, like I did here. Current resident. Voltage, polarity, current. After all, when I get mail addressed to me, it often calls me current resident. So, yeah. All right, here's the next step. My own material must now involve the heart of nature's own move into the Dwapara Yuga. It must peer deeply into and build into a practicable method direct applications of polarity and electricity. We cannot yet see or know exactly what electricity is, but we create applications for it. It must become part of our self-managed way of redemption by way of correct occult understanding and of correct and relevant mental discipline. I've come to propose that electricity is essentially nearly synonymous with life force, or vril. It is the operation of our sun. It's what our sun sends us. Our skeletal systems are piezoelectric crystalline structures. Our neurological systems operate from fluctuations in electrical voltages and polarity. Will and a desire control the directions of our mental and other energies, but nothing moves until the will moves vril. It is the vril or life force that animates. It's the life in conscious substance in motion. So if we are now in the ascending Dwapara Yuga and what it entails, as I've laid it out here, then we have the capacity for what I'm talking about here. And if we have that capacity, then it's our duty to use it. And as is the case with most such developments in human potential, soon enough something will come along, our spiritual survival of which necessitates our recognition, realization, and manifestation of that potential. Now, I managed to piece together the entire program already set forth here in my channel's material, but bringing it all up to speed now with this new Dwapara Yuga awareness and requirement, that's at the leading edge of my own relevant challenges here. All right. And that's that one. Now, I'm going to move to the second consideration. Let's see. Where am I? I gotta find it. Okay, all right now. Okay, here we go. Here, number 2. So, please allow me to again approximate a description here. And this time with respect to a second significant and I believe necessary development to the body of thought that I've already set forth here on my channel. To date, I have almost no practice with understanding or verbalizing this. So, you're with me here at the ground level of this coming about now, right? Some months ago, when I perceived public anticipation that Trump would effect a sort of comprehensive clean sweep, or as I called it at that time, a major national enema, most likely it would involve physical war and other violence for a while. Now, I perceived public anticipation. At the same time, I perceived the level of general belief that Trump's friend, Elon Musk, would introduce to humanity constructive technical innovations, and hopefully the major national enema and those innovations would work together toward good ends. But at the same time, it occurred to me that us Earthlings currently stand at a pivotal point in spiritual warfare. And if the hoped-for anima and innovation thing actually came to bear, for a while it would instantiate the physical plane activities of all-out unmasked spiritual warfare. Now, war, at least physical plane war, what we think of when we say war, right, is among the most outrageous and abominable acts of insanity. The only rational war is spiritual, and ultimately it's personal spiritual war for attainment and mastery of self by self, personal involvement, and, above all, the establishment of true selfhood. And all of this in an antagonistic environment with respect to that attainment. That's the only rational war here, right? In an antagonistic environment with respect to such attainment. In other words, in a world of consciousness hijacking and perception deception. And when I say world, I'm using it in place of universe or reality or manifested cosmos, our entire environment. Okay? Consciousness hijacking and perception deception. So in a sense, not only is spiritual war the only rational war, it's also the only real war. Yet, just like humans in large have bodies associated with the great planes of manifestation, all of them, astral body, mental body, and so forth. And just like even our planet has bodies associated with at least most of them, it has its own astral plane and so forth. In fact, we participate in its astral plane. War is also is never just a physical plane event. No way, one way or the other, it is merely the physical aspect of spiritual war. Engagement in physical warfare in and of itself never addresses the only rational and real part of the root of the matter. So right at the same time we had just experienced having that Olympic opening ceremony horror hurled into our brains. Now that seemed to be the moment when the standard known as hidden in plain sight vanished. Spiritual war was now an event in plain sight. All right, now, what's all of this imply? Even if it actually had turned out, or turns out, that hoped for enema, an innovation war, a physical war, that was anticipated instantiates, it would not have a lasting and bettering result. What it would do is give humanity a window of opportunity to jump on the spiritual warfare bandwagon, affecting constructive developments in the non-physical aspects of the same war. This would be the only way to make any bona fide relevant headway. Well, more and more it looks like that hope for enema and innovation combo was just a pipe dream. But that doesn't hinder the direction of my thought here. Okay, so now, at this point in my considerations, like I said a couple of months back, it occurred to me that my role would have to involve a new approach with my already established material, such as what is here on my channel. Not only would I need to build into it the Dwapara Yuga qualities about which I wrote and told you about here a moment ago, I would also need to build into instruction a more primitive or more first principles oriented method of action. See, I decided, I better not interject. I'll get things mixed up here. So, I decided that this window of opportunity comes with a cost, a price, a sacrifice. And that sacrifice or cost is a corresponding period of intense human disorientation. And that disorientation is causally linked to humanity's long history of poor use of its mental faculties of operation under the pressures of consciousness hijacking and perception deception. These mental faculties are the what parts of the aforementioned first principles. So I set myself to devising a method to as efficiently and safely as possible bypass the mental contents that our mental faculties work with and get right down to the faculties themselves and start right off applying them to what they should have been primarily applied to in the first place eons ago. Conscious experience of the certainty I am. And then go from there. All right, now. I think I've managed to verbalize the overall thought well enough now. There's one more, guys. I needed to clarify something. And I'm hoping. Right. Okay. Here we go. in response to, I guess it was that second one. Well, no, both of those emails. My correspondent replied, and in part of the reply was indicating that perhaps our general backgrounds of thought differ significantly, and there I was talking about the Dwapara Yoga, and you know what I was talking about the whole way through here, man. These two things, right? The response indicated that there's this whole other thing that's going on, that having to do with the Anunnaki and these Anunnaki, and we got completely put under control long ago, and in other words, the heart of spiritual warfare is with these other beings, who created us, and now they're enslaving us, and they want, they still want to keep us enslaved, and they want to significantly decrease our population, and so forth. That, that track of thought, all right? I have spoken of it briefly here and there, but all right. That was the reply. The reply was written like I actually approach affairs from that as my background and thought. Well, I responded to that, and that's the final part here for you. I'd like to clarify that it might be incorrect. There's a significant difference among our background conceptions. But given what I had written, which I've now shared with you guys here in this video, the observation makes perfect sense. But there's a lot I didn't write, which changes the matter here. I actually espouse that same conceptual background, too. About, human origins. It just wasn't pertinent to what I was writing. In fact, when I wrote blah, 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 in an environment that's antagonistic to that attainment, remember that? Antagonistic in an environment that's antagonistic. I'm in part tacitly referring to these same entities for the same reasons that the response, my correspondent's response, said constitute a divergence from my own general matrix of thought. But I just, it wasn't pertinent to say something like that. See, here, I firmly stand against all asshole entities that work to own and to control our life force and to control our sovereignty as a species, no matter who or what they are, and no matter to which realms they belong. I don't pledge to or align with or trust any beings, except those two I already named in one of those previous emails. The real ones, remember? But even them, I don't bow to, pray to, follow, or any such thing. My connection with them is true friend-like. Back to the cosmic assholes, all right? All asshole entities that work to whatever, okay, and back to these cosmic assholes, which I sometimes sum up as predatory, parasitic, psychopathic, and perhaps pedophilic power pussies. I've been in the mix with them for a long time. Sometimes I win the battles and sometimes they do. But they and I both know that they can never win the war with me because I am a sovereign itself that can never essentially be touched by their slimy existences. And I always remind them that no matter what, it's a small universe and we're going to rub elbows time and time again until they finally figured out that with me they've already lost the war. And my two true friends are always there to pitch in if I ask them. I am a humble agent of universal will, and I am certain of my existence's complete dependence upon the absolute, as I prefer to call it, or the causeless cause, if you prefer, which just is, regardless of whether it's cosmic day or cosmic night. I guess that's enough said. So now, you're up to date here with what's going on with me, Turk Strawman, current resident in Mind Voltage. And I promise, I will resume narrating the books that are in progress, in narration progress here in the channel. I will finish all of them. I just don't know exactly when. And I don't know when this material here that I have suggested is going to gel. It could take a while. It could happen overnight. Until this happens, though, there's nothing more to add to my channel. Just letting you know what's going on here in this video. That's it. You know, it's not even an official upload. All right, man. So, don't forget, if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, just do it now. That way you can also activate the notification bell feature and be apprised of new uploads when they come. You can share the joy of this channel with others simply by clicking on the thumb up icon immediately below this media player window. You can find PayPal donation information in the description area. I think it'll be there. So, alright, that's it. Alright, man. I'll talk to you soon. I'm Turk Strawman, once again, current resident, Mind Voltage.